So, what's the hardest thing that I do in my life with regards to my podcast and the social media stuff that I do, releasing videos and whatnot? I just had that question asked to me. And the answer is a pretty basic answer. The hardest thing I do is put myself out there and literally tell you damn near everything that's going on in my life. I share it all. When I'm doing great, when I'm doing bad, when I'm struggling, when I'm up, when I'm not struggling. I share everything. I'm very candid about my life, and that's not always the easiest thing to do. But see, I don't have the typical podcast where, I invite a bunch of guests on there and they're guests with big names who will help bring views and stuff like that to my channel or to my podcast. It's really just me talking about the things that go on in my life, the things that I do, the things that I've dealt with, the things that I'm going through, the things that I've been through, and I share these experiences with you. I share my everyday life with you. I share the stuff that I do with my children. I share the stuff that I do with my coaching. I share my fitness journey. I share it all. And, not long ago, probably earlier this past year, or earlier this year, I had someone say, your life can't be that interesting. Why would anybody want to listen to your podcast? And when I hear stuff like that, I automatically think of everybody who just brings guests onto their podcast because they just want the views. They want to build a podcast off other people's names, and they want the clicks. Now, don't get me wrong, clicks are nice. Okay, there's a lot of people making a really good living off getting clicks on their website, on their podcast. But I'm not in it for that. I'm human, and eventually, if it does happen down the line and the views are up, the downloads are up, the streams are up, the views are on YouTube are up, subscribers are up, beautiful. I would love to make a nice living off what I do. But that's not what I'm in it for. See, this whole thing started for me with as a kind of a therapy, a release, when I was going through my divorce and when I was going through my struggles of being homeless and not having a place to live and living in my work office and using the gym during the pandemic or prior to the pandemic for a shower and not wanting to go to the gym to work out, really just going there for the shower. And then because I was embarrassed and I thought the workers there were catching on that I was just going there to shower, I just started working out a little bit because I just felt embarrassed, to be honest. So this all started from me going through all these things. And so when I started this during the pandemic, it was more of like a therapy. We all had time, right? We all had time to sit down and talk and think about our lives and the things that we've done, right? We all had time to really spend time with our kids, to think about how we want to get better and start taking steps to do that. Well, this podcast was a way for me to do that. It was a way for me to have therapy without having a therapist, if you know what I mean. I just really found out that this was going to be a great release for me because I just started talking about everything. I just started putting it all out on the table, and little by little I noticed that it was helping me get through the stuff that I was struggling with. And then after so many months of doing that, you start to realize that, hey, there are other people out there going through the same thing. I know because they're contacting me, they're messaging me, they're saying, thank you for talking about this because I struggle with this and I thought I was the only one going through this. So I started getting more comfortable because I realized what I was doing was helping other people. And it's crazy what happens because you feel helpless when you're going through something so bad like a divorce, right? You feel like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I feel like a failure. I feel like my world is crashing in on me. Everything's just falling apart. But then you start doing something great like sharing your experience and talking about the stuff that you're going through, your emotions, your roller coaster, the changes you're making, the changes that you're not making but you're going through. And then you realize, wait, how am I helping people when I can't even help myself? And that's the beauty of it. And that's what this podcast started to do for me. So when I'm asked, what is the hardest thing you do? The hardest thing I do is share my life, is share everything, be very candid, very open about all the stuff I go through. A lot of it's not pretty, some of it is. And some people may say, man, I can't live my life like that. I need my privacy. And I get that too. And I used to be like that. But I realized for me, the person I am, the way I power through things is I talk about them. I put them out in the world. That way they have no power over me anymore. None, no power. Because once they're out in the world, it doesn't matter who hears it, who sees the video, anything. It can't be used against you. Why? Because you're the one that gave it to the world. You said, okay, cool, world, this is what you want to do to me. This is the curveball you want to throw to me. This is how hard you want to make my life on me right now. Cool. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about the way I'm struggling through this. And then I'm going to talk about how I triumphed through it and I shared it with the world. That way, you no longer have power over me. That was the hardest thing for me to learn. But now, if you ask me, what's the hardest thing I do? It's just balance everything. Because now the other part that I started this podcast with, that's easy now. Now it's easy. The hardest part now is balance. Balancing doing the podcast, making sure that I am continuously staying consistent, making sure that I find the silver lining in every day that I'm living, because there's always a silver lining. There's always something to talk about. And balancing raising my kids, coaching, recording podcasts, taking care of myself like I'm doing right now. You see me, got a weighted pack on right now. I'm doing a ruck. I'm on 75 hard. Doing all these things and trying to make sure that me, myself, and I, first and foremost, is taken care of. And people may say, that's an odd thing to say because you're a father. Let's put that little myth to rest. You always got to make sure you are taken care of before everything else. Why? Because without you, nothing else works. Okay? This is the reason why they tell you on a plane, if we start to go down and the oxygen mask drop down, before you put on your child's, before you try to help anybody else, you make sure you put on your oxygen mask first. Now you're breathing, you're okay. Now you can start helping. That's exactly the way you need to live life. You need to make sure that you are okay. Because without you, you can't help nobody. So make sure you are okay. Take care of yourself. And then start taking care of your kids, your family, and everybody else. And that's what I had to learn. So yeah, it's a big responsibility. So right now, this current moment, right here, my most difficult thing to do is balance. Sharing my life isn't that hard anymore. I've been doing it for 5 seasons on this podcast. Now I do it with ease because nothing scares me. I'm not intimidated by what people may think about me when I have episodes where I break down and cry and I'm going through stuff and I'm struggling. It doesn't bother me no more. It empowers me. I want to encourage all of you guys out there. Don't take your feelings and the stuff that you're going through in life right now. Don't take them and push them down and suppress them. Don't do it. Because I promise you, at some point, that shit has to come out. And when it comes out, because you've been suppressing it for so long, not wanting to talk about it, not wanting to deal with it, it is going to explode. And I promise you, it is going to explode on the wrong person. Someone that you love, someone that you care about so much. It is going to explode on that person, and it is going to ruin something great for you. So I'm going to tell you again, if you are going through something, do not suppress it. Talk about it. Deal with it. Feel every emotion with regards to what you're going through. The pain, the sadness, the anger, the letdown, everything. And then work through it. Talk about it. Write about it. If you don't have anybody to talk to, write about it. Take notes. Do whatever it is you can do. Hell, start your podcast. But do not suppress that, because I promise you, it'll come back to hurt you in the long run. And that's not something you want. I mean it. That's all I got today, guys. Short episode. I just wanted to jump on here and tell you guys, to share that with you and answer that question that was asked to me the other day. Like I always say, man, my life isn't perfect. Oftentimes it is a mess, but for me, it is a perfect mess. Peace.